Chapter 11. Meridian. Opening the encounter with the wild boar had left Li Wei shaken but triumphant, his belief in the scroll's promises stronger than ever. The fleeting moment when the beast had paused, as if responding to his qi, felt like a victory over the primal forces of nature. Yet the physical toll of his mountain life was mounting. His body was gaunt, his hands scarred from labor, and the lingering effects of the forbidden fasting technique left him weaker than he cared to admit. The scroll, his unwavering guide, now pointed to a new challenge: opening the meridians, a process to unblock the body's energy channels and allow qi to flow freely, a critical step toward foundation establishment. Li Wei, emboldened by his recent trials, was ready to face it, even if it meant pushing his battered body further. Back in his clearing on Mount Tai, Li Wei prepared with the solemnity of a monk entering a sacred rite. The scroll described the meridians as invisible pathways, 12 primary channels through which qi circulated, each tied to an organ and a facet of the spirit. Opening them required precision, specific acupuncture points, intense focus, and a willingness to endure pain. The text warned of blockages that could cause discomfort or even harm if forced. But Li Wei saw pain as just another tribulation, a crucible to refine his path to immortality. He lacked the traditional tools of a cultivator, no jade needles or spiritual artifacts, but necessity bred ingenuity. In the village, he traded a day's labor with old Chen for a few yuan, which he used to order a cheap acupuncture kit from an online marketplace, delivered to the village's lone post office. The kit arrived in a flimsy cardboard box containing a set of thin steel needles, a poorly translated instruction manual, and a diagram of the body's meridian points. Li Wei studied the diagram under the flickering light of his campfire, cross-referencing it with the scroll's more poetic descriptions. The governing vessel ascends the spine, the conception vessel cradles the core. He marked the points on his body with a charcoal stick, his hands trembling with a mix of anticipation and dread. The scroll recommended starting with the governing vessel, a meridian running along the spine said to connect the body to the heavens. Li Wei chose a clear morning, the air crisp and the forest quiet, to begin. He sat cross-legged before his stone altar, the scroll open beside him, its bamboo slats worn from constant handling. The spirit root herbs were arranged in a protective circle, their silvery leaves catching the sunlight, giving the clearing an almost mystical glow. He took a deep breath, steadying his qi, and inserted the first needle into the base of his spine at a point the scroll called Gate of Life. The pain was immediate and searing, like a hot coal pressed against his skin. Li Wei gasped, his vision blurring, but he forced himself to focus, chanting the scroll's incantations to guide his qi. "Flow through the vessel, unblock the gate," he whispered, visualizing a stream of light traveling up his spine. The warmth in his dantian stirred, faint at first, then pulsing in rhythm with his chants. He inserted another needle, higher up, at the jade pillow point near his neck. The pain intensified, a sharp throb that made his hands shake, but he gritted his teeth, determined to endure. Hours passed, the sun climbing higher as Li Wei worked through the points along his spine. Each needle was a battle, the pain a constant companion, but with it came fleeting moments of clarity, bursts of warmth that felt like rivers breaking through dams. His notebook, open beside him, filled with frantic scribbles. Gate of Life opened. Sharp pain, qi flows stronger. Jade pillow resists but warmth spreads. He ignored the beads of sweat rolling down his face, the dizziness creeping in, and the faint redness around the needle sites. This was the path, he told himself. Pain was the price of immortality. By afternoon, his body screamed for respite, but Li Wei pushed on, driven by the scroll's promise. When the meridians open, the spirit soars. He inserted a final needle at the 100 meetings point atop his head, where the governing vessel was said to connect with the Mamos. The pain was excruciating, a white-hot spike that made him cry out, startling a flock of birds from the trees. But then something shifted. The warmth in his dantian surged, spreading through his chest, his arms, his legs, like liquid fire cleansing his veins. For a moment, he swore he saw sparks dancing around him, faint and ethereal, like the visions from his fasting ritual. Exhausted, Li Wei collapsed beside the altar, the needles still protruding from his skin. His vision swam and a feverish heat gripped him. Was this the meridian opening, or had he pushed too far? The scroll hadn't mentioned infections, but the redness around the needle sites was unmistakable. He pulled the needles out with trembling hands, wincing as blood trickled from the punctures. Panic flickered, but he banished it, clinging to the scroll's words. Pain is the forge of the spirit. He bandaged the wounds with strips torn from his shirt, drank from the nearby stream, and lay back, staring at the sky. That night, he shared his experience with the Order of the Jade Dawn during their video call. Zhang Wei, the alchemy enthusiast, was awestruck, bombarding him with questions about the sensations. Liu Mei, the meditative moonlit crane, warned him to rest and cleanse the wounds, citing her knowledge of herbal medicine. Wang Hao, ever the skeptic, grunted, "Sounds like you stabbed yourself for nothing." But even he seemed impressed by Li Wei's tenacity. Li Wei smiled weakly, his body aching, but his spirit alight. "The meridians are opening," he told them. "I can feel it." As he slept under the stars, the scroll beside him, Li Wei dreamed of rivers of light coursing through his body, connecting him to the mountain, the sky, the universe. The pain was real, the infection a worry, but the warmth in his core was undeniable. He had taken another step toward immortality, and no amount of suffering would deter him. The heavens were watching, and he would prove himself worthy. Chapter 12. The Auction House. The pain from Li Wei's meridian opening ritual lingered, his skin tender and inflamed where the acupuncture needles had pierced. Despite the feverish haze that followed, he felt a surge of triumph. The warmth in his dantian was stronger now, a steady pulse that seemed to hum with the rhythm of Mount Tai itself. The scroll, his ever-present guide, had proven its worth once more, but its next passages hinted at a need for external tools. Artifacts of jade and spirit, imbued with the essence of the ancients, to amplify the cultivator's qi. Li Wei had no such artifacts, only his crude altar and makeshift spear. But the promise of mystical objects ignited a new obsession. If he was to progress beyond Foundation establishment, he needed something more, something sacred. In his clearing, as he recovered from the Meridian ritual, Li Wei scoured the Order of the Jade Dawn's chat group for ideas. Zhang Wei, the alchemy enthusiast, mentioned rumors of a black market auction in Tai'an, the city at the foot of Mount Tai, where rare antiques and supposed spiritual relics were traded under the table. "They're mostly fakes," Zhang Wei typed, "but every now and then something real slips through. Jade slips, talismans, maybe even a cultivator's relic." The idea electrified Li Wei. A jade slip, the scroll described as a vessel for ancient techniques, could unlock the next stage of his cultivation. He had little money left, but his determination outweighed his poverty. He would find a way. With his backpack slung over his shoulder, the scroll carefully wrapped in cloth, Li Wei descended the mountain, his legs still weak, but his resolve ironclad. Tai'an bustled with tourists drawn to Mount Tai's spiritual allure, their chatter a stark contrast to the solitude of his clearing. He navigated the city's crowded streets, following Zhang Wei's vague directions to a nondescript tea house tucked in an alley behind a bustling market. The tea house's faded sign read, "Jade Serenity," but its shuttered windows and locked door hinted at secrets. Li Wei knocked 3 times, as Zhang Wei had instructed, and whispered a phrase from the forum. "The moon seeks the hidden star." The door creaked open, revealing a burly man with a scar across his cheek. He eyed Li Wei's disheveled appearance, tattered clothes, wild hair, and a feverish glint in his eyes, and grunted. "You got an invitation?" Li Wei, unprepared for this, stammered, "I'm a seeker of the Tao. I heard of the auction." The man's scowl softened, perhaps recognizing the desperation of a true believer. 50 yuan, he muttered. Li Wei handed over nearly all his remaining cash, his heart pounding as he was ushered into a dimly lit back room. The room was a stark contrast to the tea house's modest exterior. Velvet curtains draped the walls, and a dozen figures sat around a long table, their faces obscured by shadows or hoods. At the center stood an auctioneer, a wiry man with a sly smile displaying a tray of items. a bronze incense burner, a cracked porcelain bowl, and Li Wei's breath caught a small jade slip, its surface etched with faint, swirling patterns that seemed to glow under the lamplight. A cultivator's relic, the auctioneer announced, said to hold the wisdom of a Song dynasty master. Bidding starts at 1,000 yuan. Li Wei's heart sank. He had less than 10 yuan left, not enough for a cup of tea, let alone a sacred artifact. The other bidders, a mix of wealthy collectors and shady figures, called out sums that made his head spin. Desperation clawed at him. The jade slip was his destiny. He could feel it. The same instinct that had drawn him to the scroll in Beijing. He stood, ignoring the annoyed glances, and raised his hand. "I offer my service," he blurted. "I'm a cultivator. I can refine qi, guard your treasures, anything you need." The room fell silent, then erupted in laughter. The auctioneer's smile turned mocking. "A cultivator, eh? Show us then. Prove your qi's worth more than gold." Li Wei, cornered, felt the weight of every eye on him. He closed his eyes, focusing on his dantian, the warmth now a familiar anchor. He adopted the celestial crane posture, arms raised, and chanted softly, visualizing his qi as a radiant wave. The warmth surged, stronger than ever, and for a fleeting moment, he swore the jade slip on the table flickered, its patterns pulsing in time with his breath. The laughter stopped. A few bidders leaned forward, intrigued, but the auctioneer waved dismissively. "Nice trick, but this isn't a street show. Next bid." Li Wei's face burned, but a woman in a dark shawl, her face half hidden, raised a hand. 500 yuan and let the boy try it," she said, her voice low. The auctioneer shrugged, and the jade slip was handed to Li Wei, who clutched it like a lifeline. Back in his clearing that night, Li Wei sat by his altar, the jade slip in his hands. It was cool to the touch, its carvings intricate but unreadable. He meditated, pressing it to his forehead as the scroll suggested for absorbing ancient wisdom. The warmth in his dantian stirred, and faint images flickered in his mind. Shadowy figures performing sword forms, a voice whispering of heavenly cycles. Was it real or his imagination? He didn't care. He scribbled in his notebook. Jade slip acquired. Wisdom flows, qi amplified, path opens. Days later, he learned the slip was likely a fake, a tourist trinket like his scroll. But the warmth it sparked, the visions it conjured, felt real. Li Wei shared his triumph with the Order of the Jade Dawn, who marveled at his audacity. The jade slip, real or not, was his now, a symbol of his unyielding pursuit of immortality. Under Mount Tai's starry sky, he meditated with it, convinced the heavens had guided him to this moment. Chapter 13. Betrayal in the Sect. The jade slip, though possibly a fake, had become Li Wei's talisman, a tangible link to the immortal path he was forging. Each night in his Mount Tai clearing, he meditated with it pressed to his forehead, chasing the fleeting visions of sword forms and whispered wisdom that seemed to emanate from its carvings. The warmth in his dantian grew steadier, a pulsing beacon that reassured him he was progressing toward foundation establishment. The Order of the Jade Dawn, his virtual sect, celebrated his acquisition of the slip during their weekly video calls, their faces glowing with shared excitement on his cracked phone screen. Zhang Wei, Liu Mei, and even the skeptical Wang Hao saw it as a sign that their collective pursuit of cultivation was bearing fruit. For Li Wei, the sect was more than allies, they were his family, bound by a dream of transcending the mortal world. But the harmony of the order was fragile, strained by distance and differing visions. Zhang Wei, the alchemy enthusiast, was obsessed with brewing potions, often pushing dangerous recipes that worried Liu Mei. Liu Mei, ever serene, focused on meditative purity, sometimes dismissing Wang Hao's physical training as crude. Wang Hao, in turn, scoffed at their mystic nonsense, insisting on measurable results. Li Wei, as the unofficial leader, tried to mediate, sharing the scroll's teachings to unify them. Yet cracks were forming, and they surfaced in a way Li Wei never expected. It began with a post in the True Path Seekers forum, the same online space where Li Wei had found his sectmates. A user named Dawnbreaker shared a scathing thread titled, The Jade Dawn Delusion, a cult of wannabe immortals. The post detailed the Order's practices. Li Wei's scroll, his boar encounter, the Jade Slip, even his Meridian opening ritual, mocking them as fantasies of a delusional hermit. Screenshots of their private chat, including Li Wei's fervent descriptions of key sensations and Jiang Wei's alchemical experiments, were leaked for all to see. The forum erupted with ridicule, users calling the Order a cosplay club, and worse. Li Wei's heart sank as he read the thread in the village tea house, using Old Chen's spotty Wi-Fi. The betrayal cut deeper than the hiker's laughter or the pain of his needles. The traitor was obvious. Wang Hao, the gruff martial artist, had grown increasingly vocal about his doubts during their calls. He'd argued that Li Wei's key was just adrenaline, that the scroll was a scam, and that their efforts lacked discipline. Li Wei had brushed it off, believing Wang Hao's skepticism would soften with time. But the leaked messages bore his blunt tone, his username barely disguised as Dawnbreaker. The others in the Order were furious. Jiang Wei raged in the group chat, calling Wang Hao a mortal coward. Liu Mei, usually calm, sent a private message to Li Wei. "He's broken our trust. We must protect the sect." Li Wei felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. Wang Hao had been a brother in arms, his physicality a counterpoint to Li Wei's spiritual focus. But betrayal was a wound the scroll had warned of. Allies may falter, their hearts swayed by doubt. The cultivator must remain steadfast. That night, in his clearing, Li Wei called an emergency video meeting. The air was tense, the campfire's glow casting shadows across his face as he addressed the group. "Wang Hao has betrayed us," he said, his voice heavy. "He's exposed our path to mockery. The scroll speaks of severing ties with those who hinder the Tao. I propose we exile him from the Order." Jiang Wei nodded vigorously, his dorm room cluttered with vials in the background. "He's a skeptic who never believed. Let him go." Liu Mei, her face lit by moonlight, hesitated but agreed. "His energy disrupts our harmony. We must cleanse the sect." Wang Hao, logged in from his gym, didn't deny the accusation. "You're all chasing fairy tales," he said, his voice gruff but tinged with regret. "I shared the truth to wake you up. This isn't cultivation, it's madness." Li Wei, his heart hardening, ended the call with a single command. "You're out." The exile left a void. Li Wei sat by his altar, the jade slip in his hands, its faint warmth a small comfort. The scroll's words echoed, "The path is solitary, yet allies strengthen it. Choose wisely." Had he chosen poorly? He scribbled in his notebook. Wang Hao banished. Sect purified, but trust shaken. Path continues. The next day, he doubled his meditation, chanting louder to drown out the sting of betrayal. He shared the scroll's next passage with Jiang Wei and Liu Mei, focusing on unifying the spirit to rebuild their bond. They vowed to keep their chats encrypted, their secrets guarded. As the moon rose over Mount Tai, Li Wei felt the weight of leadership. The Order was smaller now, but purer, he told himself. The betrayal was another tribulation, a test of his resolve. The scroll had guided him through storms and demons. It would guide him through this. With Jiang Wei's alchemy and Liu Mei's serenity, the Order of the Jade Dawn would rise stronger. Li Wei closed his eyes. The jade slip pressed to his forehead and visualized his key burning away doubt. The path to immortality was his alone to walk, but he would carry his sect with him, betrayal or not. Chapter 14. Lightning Tribulation. The exile of Wang Hao had left a scar on the Order of the Jade Dawn, but Li Wei refused to let it derail his path. The scroll, his unwavering guide, spoke of trials that forged the cultivator's spirit, and he saw the betrayal as just another test, one he had passed by purifying his sect. The warmth in his dantian, now a constant companion, pulsed with a quiet strength, urging him to push forward. His clearing on Mount Tai, with its stone altar and scattered spirit root herbs, remained his sanctuary, but the forest felt restless, as if the mountain itself sensed the next challenge approaching. The scroll's next passage confirmed it. The lightning tribulation, where heaven's wrath tests the cultivator's resolve. Stand firm, and the spark of divinity shall ignite within. Li Wei had read enough cultivation novels to know that lightning tribulations were pivotal moments, often depicted as cataclysmic events where cultivators faced bolts from the sky to ascend to new realms. The scroll's description was less dramatic, but no less daunting. Absorb the heavenly lightning to temper the body. Falter, and the spirit shall scatter. Li Wei wasn't sure if this was literal or metaphorical, but the idea of harnessing nature's fury thrilled him. His recent trials, the boar, the fasting, the betrayal, had strengthened his belief in the scroll's truths. If the heavens sent lightning, he would face it, not as a mortal, but as a cultivator on the cusp of greatness. The weather on Mount Tai had been unsettled for days, with dark clouds gathering over the peaks, their edges tinged with an ominous silver. Li Wei spent the morning preparing, reinforcing his altar with heavier stones, and securing his tarp against the wind. He meditated with the jade slip, its faint carving seeming to pulse under his touch, and reviewed the scroll's instructions. Stand atop the highest point, open the heart to the heavens, and channel the lightning's essence into the Dantian. He packed his notebook, the scroll, and the jade slip into a waterproof cloth, determined to protect them at all costs. His body, still weak from the meridian opening ritual and the lingering infection, protested, but Li Wei ignored it. Pain was the forge of immortality. As evening approached, the air grew heavy, charged with the scent of ozone. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and Li Wei felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with dread. He climbed to a rocky outcrop above his clearing, a jagged pinnacle that jutted toward the sky like a natural altar. The wind whipped his tattered jacket, and the first drops of rain stung his face. He stood tall, the jade slip clutched in one hand, and raised his arms as the scroll instructed, visualizing his chi as a conduit for the heavens' power. "I am ready," he whispered, his voice lost in the growing storm. "Test me." The storm unleashed its fury with a deafening crack. Lightning illuminated the mountain, casting stark shadows across the rocks. Li Wei's heart pounded, but he held his stance, chanting the scroll's incantations with fervent intensity. "Heaven's spark, temper my soul," he shouted, his words swallowed by the wind. He focused on his Dantian, willing the warmth to expand, to reach out and meet the lightning's energy. Another bolt struck nearby, the shockwave rattling his bones, and for a moment, he swore he felt a surge of heat, as if his chi had connected with the storm's raw power. Emboldened, Li Wei raised his voice, chanting louder, his arms outstretched as if to embrace the sky. The scroll had warned of danger, but he saw only opportunity, a chance to transcend his mortal limits. A third bolt struck closer, singeing the air and leaving a scorched patch on the outcrop. His hair stood on end, and a tingling sensation raced through his body, not unlike the chi he'd felt during meditation. "It's working!" he cried, convinced the lightning was purifying his meridians, igniting the spark of divinity the scroll promised. Then, a bolt struck the outcrop itself, mere feet away. The explosion of light and sound threw Li Wei to the ground, his ears ringing, his vision swimming. Pain seared his scalp where a stray spark had singed his hair, and the smell of burnt fabric filled his nostrils. For a moment he lay stunned, the rain lashing his face, doubt creeping in. Had he misread the scroll? Was this madness, not cultivation? But the warmth in his Dantian pulsed, stronger than ever, as if the lightning had indeed touched his spirit. He scrambled to his feet, laughing into the storm. "I have survived," he shouted. "The heavens have spared me." The storm subsided as quickly as it had come, leaving the mountain drenched and silent. Li Wei staggered back to his clearing, his body trembling, but his spirit alight. His notebook, soaked but intact, recorded his triumph. Lightning tribulation faced, chi ignited, singed but unbowed. He shared the story with the Order of the Jade Dawn during their next call, his singed hair and wild grin earning gasps from Zhang Wei and Liu Mei. "You're insane," Zhang Wei said, half admiring, half concerned. Liu Mei urged him to rest, but Li Wei was already planning his next step. Under the starry sky, he sat by his altar, the jade slip in his hands, the scroll open before him. The tribulation had been terrifying, but he had faced it and emerged stronger, or so he believed. The warmth in his core felt electric, as if the lightning had left a piece of itself within him. The scroll promised greater trials ahead, but Li Wei was undaunted. The heavens had tested him, and he had answered. With the Order's support and the scroll's guidance, he was ready to ascend further, one perilous step at a time. Chapter 15. The Hidden Valley. The lightning tribulation had left Li Wei scorched and exhilarated, his singed hair and tingling skin a testament to his survival. The warmth in his dantian pulsed with a new intensity, as if the storm's energy had fused with his qi, pushing him closer to the elusive foundation Baiyan establishment. The scroll, now slightly frayed, but still his guiding star, spoke of sacred grounds where cultivators could deepen their connection to the Tao. Mount Tai, with its ancient spiritual aura, had served him well, but Li Wei felt a restless urge to explore further, to find a place where the veil between mortal and immortal was thinner still. The betrayal of Wang Hao and the physical toll of his trials only strengthened his resolve. He needed a sanctuary, a hidden realm to anchor his cultivation. The morning after the storm, Li Wei packed his meager belongings. The scroll, the jade slip, his tattered notebook, and the last of the spirit root herbs, their silvery leaves now wilted but still sacred in his eyes. His body ached, the burns from the lightning tender, but the warmth in his core urged him onward. The scroll hinted at valleys of eternal mist, where qi flowed like rivers, and Li Wei, inspired by tales of hidden grottos and cultivation lore, decided to search Mount Tai's uncharted slopes. He left his familiar clearing, its stone altar a silent witness to his progress, and ventured deeper into the mountain's wild heart. The terrain grew rugged, the trails fading into tangled underbrush and rocky crags. Li Wei navigated by instinct, his senses sharpened by months of meditation. The forest was alive with whispers, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a hawk, the trickle of unseen streams. He imagined these as signs, the mountain guiding him to its secrets. Hours passed, his legs burning from the climb, his stomach protesting the lack of food. He nibbled a bitter berry, ignoring the faint nausea it brought, and pressed on, driven by the scroll's promise of a sacred place. As the sun dipped low, casting golden rays through the pines, Li Wei stumbled upon a narrow crevice between two towering cliffs. Mist curled from its depths, glowing faintly in the twilight, and a cool breeze carried the scent of moss, and something sweeter, almost ethereal. His heart raced. This was no ordinary valley. The scroll described such places as conduits of heaven's breath, where qi pooled like water in a basin. He squeezed through the crevice, his backpack scraping against the rocks, and emerged into a hidden valley that took his breath away. The valley was a world apart, a bowl-shaped hollow cradled by sheer cliffs draped in vines. A small waterfall cascaded into a crystal-clear pool, its surface shimmering with refracted light. Ferns and wildflowers carpeted the ground, their colors unnaturally vibrant, as if infused with life beyond the mortal realm. At the center stood a massive, ancient tree, its gnarled roots twisting like dragons, its branches heavy with blossoms that glowed faintly in the fading light. Li Wei's skin prickled, the warmth in his dantian surging, as if responding to the valley's energy. This was the sacred ground he'd sought, a place where the Tao itself seemed to breathe. He set up camp near the pool, using rocks to form a new altar grander than the one in his old clearing. He placed the scroll and jade slip at its center, arranging the wilted herbs in a protective circle. The valley felt alive, its air humming with a subtle vibration that made his meditations deeper, his qi more vivid. He sat cross-legged by the altar, chanting the scroll's incantations, and felt the warmth in his core expand, weaving through his meridians like threads of light. In the silence, he swore he heard whispers, not the mocking voices of his inner demon, but soft, ancient murmurs, like the echoes of long-gone cultivators guiding him. Li Wei spent days in the valley, losing track of time. He meditated beneath the ancient tree, its blossoms falling like stars around him. He drank from the pool, its water sweet and invigorating, convinced it was infused with spiritual essence. His notebook filled with entries. Hidden valley found. Qi flows like a river. Whispers of immortals guide me. He He shared photos with the Order of the Jade Dawn during a rare trip to the village for Wi-Fi, earning odd responses from Jiang Wei and Liu Mei. "It's a spirit realm," Jiang Wei typed, while Liu Mei urged caution. "Such places are powerful, but dangerous. Respect its energy." One night, as he meditated under the tree, a vision gripped him. He saw himself floating above the valley, his body radiant with qi, the tree's blossoms swirling around him like a celestial dance. The whispers grew clearer, chanting words from the scroll. "Harmonize with the Tao, and the heavens shall open." He awoke with a start, his heart pounding, the jade slip warm in his hands. Was this the valley's gift, a glimpse of ascension? Or was it another delusion, born of hunger and isolation? Li Wei chose belief, as always. He scribbled in his notebook, "Valley is my new sanctuary. Qi purified, visions granted, path to immortality lies here." The valley's mist curled around him, the tree's blossoms glowing in the moonlight. Li Wei felt closer to the heavens than ever, but a small part of him wondered if the valley's beauty was blinding him to its dangers. The scroll warned of trials in sacred places, and Li Wei, with his sect's support and his unyielding faith, prepared to face whatever lay ahead in this hidden realm.